Good morning. How far-reaching is the inheritance that you're going to leave behind whenever you exit this world? By the way, I'm Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Thursday. This week, as we look at our heritage, I'm reminded of some of my favorite words in the Psalms. Psalm 103, verse 17 says, "But the loving kindness of the Lord is from everlasting to everlasting on those who fear him, and his righteousness to children's children, to such as keep his covenant and remember his precepts to do them." Just prior to these verses, the psalmist is reminding us of the brevity of man's life. He says his days are like grass or like the flower of the field as it flourishes. We know how fleeting the bloom on a flower will last. Just a few days ago, the early flowers of spring sprang up on the banks outside our church, but they're gone now. They did not last very long. And when we consider how quickly the grass grows, it greens, it covers, it flourishes, only to turn brown before the fall comes, and in the winter it virtually disappears. In comparison to the shortness of man's life, he speaks about God's mercy. And he says God's mercy is from everlasting to everlasting. Now, that is a beautiful picture. Eternity cannot even measure God's mercy, his loving kindness toward us. And who is this mercy bestowed upon? He says here, all of those who keep his covenant. God's law is very important to the Lord, and he calls for his followers to feel the same way, to remember, to keep it. His mercy is given to those who remember his precepts, he says, and remember to do them. So what does this mercy have to do with our theme, which is actually talking about our heritage? Well, he says in this passage, this mercy is shown to those who fear him, and that's not only something we should do daily, but something that we should show reverence for an almighty God and teach that godly fear to our children and to our families. You know, he reminds us this mercy is for those who fear the Lord. And his righteousness extends to children's children. You know, Deuteronomy chapter 6 commanded us that we should teach them diligently to our children when we walk by the way or sit down or rise up. But we also have that responsibility to teach them so they can teach their children also. That's where it gets into this grandchildren phase. I am a grandfather. I'm called Gramps by 6 or 7 young children. And I have a great duty, a responsibility to lead them to the Lord and to help them to experience that mercy of God that extends from everlasting to everlasting. I have actually been privileged to baptize one of my grandchildren and always to remind them every chance we get to follow the Lord all of their lives. For the promise of mercy and righteousness here extends to children's children. I love that picture. So let's keep our solemn vow today to teach and train our children and even our grandchildren to keep his precepts, to follow the Lord all their lives so that they can experience that everlasting mercy of the Lord.